Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. After a long layoff of no UFC fight cards on Saturdays, we are finally getting a fight card this Saturday, UFC Vegas 46. And while the fight card as a whole on paper is nothing spectacular, I absolutely love the main event. We have a featherweight fight between Giga Chikadze and Calvin Kattar, and this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction. If you look at the tail of the tape, currently Giga Chikadze is ranked number 8, while Calvin Kattar is ranked number 5 in the UFC official rankings. They are both 33 years old. Giga Chikadze is 6 foot, while Kattar is 5'11", and Giga has a 74-inch reach, while Kattar has a 72-inch reach. So a little bit of a height advantage, a little bit of a reach advantage for Giga Chikadze. Both guys are the exact same age. So if you look at Calvin Kattar comes into this fight, and he's coming in off a year layoff, almost exactly 1 year. He fought Max Holloway January 16th of 2021, and we all remember what happened in this fight. And I rewatched this fight in anticipation of doing this prediction video, and this was just one of those fights where just Max Holloway just absolutely brutalized him from start to finish. I believe there was multiple 10-8 rounds, and I was shocked when this made it all the way to decision. When I actually made my prediction for this fight, obviously, again, I didn't have a YouTube channel, so I can't prove this, but I thought it was going to be a doctor stoppage in the 3rd or 4th round. That was my official prediction for this card, for this main event last year. I just thought Max Holloway was so good, had nasty volume. I thought he would pick apart Calvin Kattar and do basically exactly what he did. But what was crazy is, and I wanted to, going back and rewatching this, I wanted to criticize Herb Dean, and maybe he could have stopped it in between rounds. But in the flurries in the 3rd or 4th, every time there was that moment where, okay, it's time for the ref to stop it, Calvin Kattar was swinging back in this fight, which is just crazy because, I remember this fight not being competitive at all, and I remember thinking the commentary was crazy because they were talking about, oh, it's one of the greatest fights of the year, and it's only January, and I didn't really believe that, and I still don't believe that, but Calvin Kattar did a lot more than I remembered him doing now that I went back and rewatched it now a year later. And again, it doesn't change the fact that Max Holloway put a world-class beating on him, but it was just Calvin Kattar was able to land quite a few punches on Max Holloway. The difference in the fight was for every one punch that Calvin Kattar landed, Max Holloway landed 3 or 4. It was just crazy the accumulated damage that Max Holloway, it was just adding up round after round. I thought maybe his corner might stop it after the 4th round where he was really brutalized to the body and to the head. But, he survived, and I'm happy that he took this 1 year off before coming back and fighting an absolute killer like Giga Chikadze. Moving down, his fight before that was July of 2020 against Dan Ige. He won unanimous decision. That's an impressive win. I think Dan Ige is a little bit underrated within the featherweight division. Before that is when he had that spectacular standing elbow KO of Jeremy Stephens. Well, technically it was a TKO. Had to follow him to the ground with some ground and pound before the ref actually stopped it. But it was nasty, and he really brutalized Jeremy Stephens in that finish. And before that was his loss to Zabit. And this was a 3-round fight. And Calvin Kattar's known a bit to be a slow starter, and Zabit really won those first 2 rounds. Calvin Kattar was starting to come on strong in that 3rd round, and I really believe had this been a 5-round fight, Calvin Kattar might have been able to win this fight. I just really believe that the way he was coming on in that 3rd round, that he would have been able to possibly defeat Zabit, especially with Zabit's stamina issues. And I know Zabit's been out a while, so a lot of people forgot about him. But Zabit is a world-class featherweight fighter, and I hope that he does return, and I hope that he has dealt with his cardio issues. I'm really excited to see Zabit back in the cage, hopefully in 2022. So moving on to Giga Chikadze. And I was, I believe that Giga Chikadze was a very interesting up-and-coming prospect, but I was not all aboard the Giga Chikadze's train. I think that a lot of people, the hype was a little bit premature. He hadn't really fought anyone. And Giga Chikadze, as far as his resume goes, I call out people for having terrible resumes all the time. Up until really recently, he has one of the worst resumes I've ever seen in terms of level of competition. But in his last 2 fights, he's kind of, fixed that a little bit. He had, in May of 2021, was his first real step up in competition against Cub Swanson, where he landed the body kick and finished Cub Swanson in the 1st round, took almost no damage. And then just recently, in August of 2021, he fought Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza was one of the best lightweights in the world, and I still believe that he is one of the best featherweights in the world. And he went out there and he made it look easy against Edson Barboza. It was a semi-competitive fight, but he hurt Edson Barboza in that third round, and he swarmed him for the TKO finish. And up until this point, you look at the names on his resume, it leaves a lot to be desired. Jamie Simmons, Omar Morales, Erwin Rivera, Brandon Davis, Jamal Emmers. Not the greatest names, and even you look at Brandon Davis and Jamal Emmers, he only won split decisions. So I really believe if you look at the progression of Giga's career, I believe he's improving with every single fight. And at 33 years old, it's getting to the point, and then these next 2 years are very crucial for his career. He has to, kind of make that step up and either make his case to be a title contender or just prove that he's just going to be another one of these guys that just hang around in the top 10. And I'm happy that now we really get a steep test for him in Calvin Kattar. And, I really believe that Edson Barboza is criminally underrated at featherweight. And that win for me, I picked against Giga in that fight. That win for me meant a lot. To go out there and finish a guy like Edson Barboza, who's super tough, super durable, has fought some of the best guys at 155, is a great featherweight as well, fought some good guys there as well. And for Giga to go out there and finish him the way he did, and the whole entire fight was just a clinic. The way Giga Chikadze was just closing the distance, landing on Edson Barboza, he was kicking him to the body, kicking him to the head, landing with the hands, beating Edson Barboza up, and then eventually found his shot, and then he swarmed him for the kill in that third round. So it's crazy because his resume is terrible, and it's weird because you look back at some of these names that he struggled to get wins against in split decisions, and then you see him beating a guy, finishing a guy like Edson Barboza, and coming out relatively unscathed. I really believe it's because he is just ever improving with every fight. And I've talked about it before. When I look at guys and see certain fights, and I try to tell you guys, I see this guy having a very high potential, the number one thing I look for is fight to fight, how much it looks like they have improved. I've talked about it with Charles Oliveira before. He's a guy that every time he comes out to fight, it seems like he has just improved leaps and bounds from his last fight. And Giga Chikadze, you go back and look at some of his earlier fights, he has looked so much better since then. Got so much more fluid with his striking, just looks overall so much better. So as far as this fight against Calvin Kattar, I really believe that, you look at the fight and Calvin Kattar, one thing I cannot get past, and if you guys, obviously you heard me in the beginning talking about it, is that beating that he took from Max Holloway. That is a massive X factor. We've seen it over the course of certain guys' careers where they take a beating like that and they are never the same again. And I'm wondering, within this fight, is Calvin Kattar going to come back and look like the same Calvin Kattar that beat Jeremy Stephens, the same Calvin Kattar that has, the win over Ricardo Lamas back when Ricardo Lamas was considered elite? I don't know because of that beating. Look what happened to Junior Dos Santos after that terrible beating Cain Velasquez put on him in the second and third fight. He was never the same, and we've seen this happen to countless fighters over and over and over again. They take damage, and they are just never the same. So I worry about that. And then I see Giga Chikadze, in his last few fights, he's barely getting touched. He's barely taking any damage. And, it makes me lean a certain way. And because of that, I'm going to go Giga Chikadze by first round TKO. And I know that sounds like a bold prediction. Calvin Kattar probably took 400 or 500 strikes from Max Holloway in that fight and went all the way to decision. But Max Holloway is known to be a volume striker. He's not, a power puncher or known for his power by any means. I think Giga Chikadze has more power than Max Holloway does. And also, I believe that Giga Chikadze has some of the best kicks within the featherweight division and maybe even within the UFC. He uses such a variety of attacks. He will kick your legs. He will attack your body, especially with the Giga kick. He fights majority orthodox, but he will switch to southpaw and he will throw that kick to the body. And I believe that he will be using that technique within this fight. He throws lots of head kicks. He has a great jab. He has great hands. And again, he's ever improving. And you look at Calvin Kattar, you look at his past fights, even in the Max Holloway fight where he's getting destroyed on the feet, for every 5 shots Max Holloway's landing, Calvin Kattar's landing 1. Calvin Kattar, I think, maybe went for 1 takedown throughout that entire fight. So really, if there's a hole in the game that we haven't seen yet, I believe it's Giga Chikadze's takedown defense, or not his takedown defense, but his wrestling and his ability to be controlled on the ground. But Calvin Kattar's not a guy that's going to be able to exploit that, and I believe Giga Chikadze's, takedown defense is ever improving as well. So Calvin Kattar's not a guy that's going to come out and shoot takedowns. He's going to go out there and he's going to try to outbox Giga Chikadze. And I think what it comes down to is Giga Chikadze is just a better kickboxer. Calvin Kattar does not mix in enough kicks. He majority just throws his hands. He's super predictable. I think that Giga Chikadze is the much faster guy in there. I mean, I know Max Holloway is fast, but Calvin Kattar just looked like he was in slow motion against Max Holloway. And I know Calvin Kattar found some success in the later rounds, landing some hard shots on Max Holloway, but still the volume was too much for him. I know Giga Chikadze isn't going to put that type of volume on him, but Giga Chikadze picks his shot. He's super accurate. He's always picking his shots. And then when he does hurt you, he goes in for the kill each and every time. There's so many times where I'll be watching a fight, maybe I'll even be streaming the fight, and I'll see one fighter hurt the other. And it's like they don't want to blow out their stamina and they don't go after him, looking for the finish. So then the guy survives and the fight continues to go on. Giga Chikadze is not one of those guys. He hurt Edson Barboza and he put it on him, hurt Edson Barboza bad, dropped him, went for a submission. The submission didn't come to fruition, let him go. As soon as Edson Barboza got up, he started swarming him again. And I believe if he hurts Calvin Kattar in this fight, I believe he will be swarming him immediately. But honestly, when it comes down to a more specific prediction, I really think in the first round, I think Giga Chikadze is going to be super accurate with his strikes. He's going to be very fresh because I'm wondering how his stamina looks. We haven't seen him in a 5-round fight. We've seen him in 3-round fights get a little tired towards the end. We know Calvin Kattar, even when taking a beating, he can still fight all the way 25 minutes. So I'm also wondering, if I was predicting a Calvin Kattar win, I would be predicting a Calvin Kattar win for the later rounds. But truly what I see happening is I see Giga coming out, managing the distance. I see Giga really getting in and out well, picking his strikes well, and landing that Giga kick. I see him switching to southpaw, throwing that hard body kick, hurting Calvin Kattar badly, and then swarming him. I know how, tough Calvin Kattar is. But I think once that body kick lands on him, I think it's going to be over. I think Giga's going to swarm him on the ground, land some ground and pound, and the referee is going to step in. And it's going to be a first-round TKO for Giga Chikadze. And I think he's going to get out there relatively unscathed. I know that Calvin Kattar has great boxing, but he just doesn't mix it up enough, and he doesn't have the threat of the takedown to kind of, neutralize the stand-up of Giga Chikadze. And Calvin Kattar in the past has had trouble with kickers. He's got his legs chewed up. I mean, even in the Max Holloway fight, Max Holloway was chewing up his legs and body. And I believe that Giga Chikadze overall is a better kicker. And I just really believe, I really see that Giga kick landing, hurting Kattar to the body, and, Giga swarming him and finishing him. Should be a great fight, though, either way. I really believe, even if it goes later on, which I actually would prefer for it to go later on because I really want to get a gauge on Giga Chikadze's stamina. But I believe no matter what, both these guys are never in a boring fight. I think regardless of how the fight goes, it's going to be an exciting fight. If I had to bet on Calvin Kattar, I would bet for the later round finish, maybe a 4th or 5th round finish. I just think he's such a slow starter. Giga Chikadze just seems dialed in every time he comes out there, or in recent fights, seems super dialed in, ever improving. I think he's going to come into this fight better than ever, have his eye on that empty spot across from Alexander Volkanovski. Max Holloway's injured, no longer getting the trilogy fight with Alexander Volkanovski. So I think Giga Chikadze is going to come in here thinking about that empty spot and wanting to step in and fight for the featherweight belt very soon. He's going to look to get an early finish, come out unscathed, and potentially fight for the featherweight belt in the next couple months. But let me know in the comments, who do you guys think is going to win this fight? Do you think Calvin Kattar has a chance? I'm rather confident in Giga Chikadze. I wouldn't say that Calvin Kattar has no chance, but I'm pretty confident in Chikadze. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching.